Poďme na to páni, poďme to proudiť. Ako prvé skontrolovať zvukovú stopu, skontrolovať zvukovú stopera, či sedí. To je kľúčové tematiky. Poďme na to páni, poďme to proudiť. Ako prvé skontrolovať zvukovú stopu. No, takže zvuková stopa sa nemôžeme to oficiálne rozproudiť. Takže je 7.11.2025. Máme tu 719. relaxačný tréningový deň. Začíname. Je piatok, ktoré sú klikožruty. 100, 90, 80, 70, 60 kliksterov. Pustíme si tohto piču Selgerona, alebo jak sa volá, znanitého trónu ako Podmas. Začíname 18:31, prvá várka 100 klikožrutov, 100 kliksterov.
So I was running the raid yesterday, and our Crucifix players were reporting there seems to be a bug. You can only have one person in the entire team using satellite copy. This is a secondary effect to summon satellite with this specialization. You can see when you cast it once, it's like this, but the second cast is that satellite copy with a bit longer cooldown. What that does is give everybody your satellite. Now this allows a orb healer to be able to apply distortion veil to everybody affected by this satellite then, and it has to be our satellite. So this is one of the main ways you spread that shield. But what happens then is it locks out, for some reason, everybody else from their copy satellite. So they can no longer apply their satellites to everybody. So as a Crucifix, this is a pretty massive nerf. And similarly for the healer, if a Crucifix has already applied that satellite copy, then you're kind of screwed because you can no longer apply the shield to everybody. Without this satellite copy working for you as a Crucifix, you will miss out on all of those extra stellar dash hits, which is 5 more hits due to having 5 teammates you could otherwise apply this satellite to normally. Now before this update, that worked perfectly fine. You were able to put your satellites on everybody, and everybody else was able to put their satellites on you whenever they wished, and there was no interplay there. So this results in a massive nerf to Crucifix and for any orb healer, whether you're Oracle with Wand or Scryer with Bow. You can no longer reliably apply Distortion Veil to everybody through satellite copy. It will simply lock you out from being able to cast the satellite copy if there is already one on everybody from another orb player in the team. So what the devs have basically done is you do not want more than one orb player in your party. So we've gone from a meta where you have nearly an entire party full of orbs to now only having one, whether that's an orb healer or an orb DPS. Just be aware though, you can stagger the abilities. So if my satellite copy ends, because it only lasts 3 seconds plus 1.5 seconds plus buff duration, so if I have 100% buff duration, this thing would last me 9 seconds. So there is the opportunity after it expires for another player to cast theirs. Also because the cooldown on this satellite copy, you can see is actually 18 seconds for me, 6 seconds longer than the normal summon satellite ability, which is also annoying for the timing on when to cast it. I personally would assume this is a bug because the devs did not announce this on the patch notes, but it could just as well be a shadow nerf as well. It makes sense that you can't apply more than one satellite to everybody because when you read the description, it clearly states only one satellite may be applied to a target. So if they already have a satellite, yes, they shouldn't be able to be given another satellite. However, there should be no reason that I cannot just reapply my satellite to everybody, and thus refresh the duration and replace them with my satellites. And on top of that, there should just be no distinction of who are the satellites. It should just be a simple case of, is there a satellite on my party members? If yes, I get the Stellar Dash buff there, I get the basic attack boost, and the effect with the séria. So if I cast this, even if they casted their own summon satellite on themselves and not everybody else, I should still be able to cast Distortion Veil on them. But for all we know, this could be a deliberate change, but it just feels really bad in terms of having multiple orbs in the group. because you end up locking each other out unless you time them perfectly. You basically tell each other, my satellite copy's over, you can now cast yours. Although for Crucifix, with all the cooldown from Selfless Diffusion, you can get pretty much 100% uptime on satellite copy. So staggering doesn't even really work there. So right now, if you want to be a competitive Crucifix damage dealer or crossbow steal, you want to ensure that there is pretty much only yourself as the only orb player in the party. Kick everybody else. So we've gone from party boards, orbs only, to wanting no other orbs than one. Kind of crazy. Although most players don't realize this, and they just take the nerf and damage how it is. Yes, it does encourage having multiple different weapons in the party, but I don't think this lockout should be forced like this. Again, it should, at the very least, be able to replace somebody else's satellite copy with your own. And this would also allow for the healer to properly apply the shields, and then somebody else casts their satellite copy for, say, damage. And with the shield stacking change as well, they've made it so you can't stack the shield people gain through Amplification Veil with Distortion Veil, which further nerfs Orb Healer. Honestly, Amplification Veil should just not give a shield and just have that simple damage boost as it says there, and remove that effect that when the shield breaks you lose the damage buff. It should just be a flat thing, even though that's a little bit more boring. With the change to shield stacking, you cannot have Distortion Veil and Amplification Veil. So if the DPS has cast their Amplification Veil, you cannot put Distortion Veil on them to give them that bigger shield, because you're going to have shield health stats, the DPS is not, and so they're going to have a minuscule shield versus the bigger one you can apply. So Orb Healers are struggling after this change due to that Summon Satellite bug, or maybe Ninja nerf, and the fact Distortion does not stack with Amplification. But moving on to some DPS tests, I do want to showcase a little bit of some tests I was getting with Dark Blighter here. It's actually been improved quite a bit. I especially wanted to test it as an alternative to Fury, because now that Fury is capped with the detonation mark, it means you're barely gaining any damage from crossbow. The main benefit is just your Selfless Diffusion for the extra cooldown, but perhaps Dagger can make up that difference with all those extra hits it can provide and the poisons. But unfortunately, you can see the tests here, we weren't getting much better than 37 seconds as our DPS output. I did do some build improvements, so we went from like 50 seconds, 45 seconds, all the way down to, yes, 37 seconds, just switching up some skills. And what I found is actually less is more. Not filling your entire bar with skills and then spamming as many skills as possible. It was actually better to leave some out and leave some extra cast time for Corrupting Hit to trigger, at least while I was using Curse Explosion. So yeah, Dark Blighter is quite a bit more viable, but I still don't see much point in playing it over Fury. Fury is still good. I'm getting DPS results as low as 24 seconds here, with the average about 30 seconds. Again, that's 30 seconds to deal 5 million damage on average. I'm not cherry picking a test result here when you look at all of these results. I did on Fury go test out Mortal Mark and just know this isn't worth it. You can see these test results here, and they're quite a bit behind the average 30 seconds. And this is due to it's still having the cap, but the cap's setting lower. Normally with Detonation Mark, the cap is going to be that 50,000% times 40%, that's at 1 stack. And then with Mortal Mark at 1 stack, it's 50,000 times 10%. So the cap is significantly lower, but you do get those extra hits. But the thing is, on Fury, you don't really take advantage of those extra hits, because we're primarily just using basic attacks and not, say, spamming quickfire and other abilities that take advantage of all those extra hits. So it is just not worth it on Fury. It can be worth it on Crucifix because, again, you have things like Stellar Dash with the Orb effect plus Satellite Copy, giving you then a total...
Fuck off. Ale páni, je to za nami? Za nami? Bude to s vami. Zvykať mi to na to. ...719. relaxačný trénink uvidíme za nami, bolo 7.11.2025. Skončili sme 18.41. Segment trval 10 minút a 55 sekúnd.